Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig.
And I'm Connor.
And today we have a review of the big snakes in the Tyranid codex. That is the Trygon, Trygon Prime, and the Mawloc. In these typical videos, we cover the profiles of each of the models, some upgrades we can give them, some other ways to play them in terms of tactics, and at the end we kind of go over a conclusion of how we feel about the models right now in the state of the game.
Maybe a little rant on what we hope for in the future.
It might be one of those too. If that all sounds good to you, please like and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So first off, we'll start with the basic Trygon. He is coming in at 150 points. He's got a fast 9-inch move, weapon skill 3, which degrades to 5, ballistic skill 4, which degrades to 6. We don't really care about that. Standard strength 7, weaker toughness 6, 12 wounds, 7 attacks technically with massive scything talons, leadership 7, and a standard 3-up save. The Trygon, again, like we said, has massive scything talons, so this is strength user, AP -3, D6 damage, rerolling hit rolls of 1, which is always nice.
Right.
Trygon also has 3 types of tails. Pick whichever one floats your goat. I like the toxic spike, but again, the tail doesn't really do a whole lot.
It's an extra attack. For most of them, at least.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. I don't know. It used to be that the tail was one of their attacks.
Right.
So you got to read your rule carefully. Yeah.
Sure.
So the last thing with the Trygon is that they have subterranean assault, which is where when they can come in via deep strike, they can also bring 1 troop choice in with their tunnel. So you can bring termagants up. So when the Trygon pops up, so does a unit of termagants or whatever you choose.
Kind of your main, not main way, but a very important way to deep strike stuff.
Yes, it is a big transport option. The key thing to note is that both the Trygon and the other unit have to be 9 inches away from enemy models, and the other unit must be wholly within 3 inches of the edge of the Trygon base.
So generally, don't use like 30-man blocks of gaunts. You're going to want to have smaller squads of either devil gaunts with devourers,
yes,
or like medium-sized infantry.
Yeah, your warriors. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Trygon. Trygon Prime is similar, but he does have some changes.
Couple changes here. The main stuff is the same, but the changes are going to be his leadership goes up by 2. It's now 9. They have the character rule, which gives you some, I would say mostly benefits.
Yes.
You can use certain stratagems and whatnot. And because he is a Trygon Prime, he has synapse, so he's one of your leaders, basically. And the other, a little bit less important thing is going to be a gun that has twice the amount of shots. It's the same weapon profile, it just has twice the amount of shots.
12 shots instead of 6, yeah.
Compared to the other Trygon.
It doesn't too much. You're paying the points for the synapse and the character buff.
Yep.
Also important to note, if you haven't checked out Chapter Approved,
Right,
our review, the Trygon Prime is now only 175 points instead of 190. So
helps a lot.
Nice little buff. Trygon Prime, like you said, he has synapse now, so he has the Shadow and Warp and synapse rules. He also has subterranean assault, just like the normal one. And it is important to note that these two can also take adrenal glands or toxin sacs.
Right.
Good upgrades. I would recommend probably doing at least adrenal glands, and if you have the points left over, do toxin sacs as well.
If you're going to use them, you might as well kind of go for it.
Yeah.
And I think, kind of do a little small note, is they do have scything talons, but they're, again, massive scything talons, so their weapon profile is not a scything talon weapon profile. It is AP -3, D6 damage. I know you already mentioned it, but
no, it's
important to know.
Yeah, so for newer players, if you're using the custom high fleet trait, when it says biometallic cyst buff scything talons, that is only standard scything talons. That does not buff these big boys, which would be cool, but it doesn't work that way.
There are different weapons.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, so now we'll get on to the Mawloc. The Trygons were more of snakes. This guy is more of a a worm.
A massive worm.
Massive worm.
Yeah.
Also a underground missile.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
a missile worm.
Right.
He too has a move of 9 inches. You probably won't move him at all in the game, but he's got a move of 9. Weapon skill is 4 to 5 to 6. Not great. Strength 6, toughness 6. Strength degrades all the way down to 4. He does have 12 wounds and 7 attacks, which is at least a little something.
Yeah. He also has no ballistic skill at all.
Nope.
There's no gun.
No gun.
Yeah.
So he too has the tails that you can pick from again, whichever one you want.
Right.
He does only have standard scything talons.
Right. So these would be affected by the customized
They
blade.
would be affected by that. He still gets to reroll ones. He only has 1 pair of them, so he does not get an extra attack.
Sure.
And he has his jaw, which is a nice attack, but good luck hitting with it.
Right.
It is 1 attack and only 1. Is AP -3 and D6 damage.
But it's 1 attack.
That's 1 attack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You cannot make more.
Right. And for the most important part of the Mawloc, he has a special ability.
Yes, Terror from the Deep. This is what makes him his missile that we were referring to.
It's basically his whole thing.
Yeah, it's the whole shtick of
Yeah.
the Trygon. Or the Mawloc, sorry. So what happens is he can deploy through Deep Strike, unlike normal models, within 2 inches of enemy units. And he cannot charge or move or anything once he does this. But when he does, you pick every enemy model that is within 2 inches of that Mawloc and you roll a die. You consult the D6 table. On a 2 through 3, you suffer 1 mortal wound, or your opponent suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 4 through 5, it is D3 mortal wounds. And on a 6, it is a nice flat 3 mortal wounds.
Nothing to scoff at.
No, it's pretty good. And if you can get your opponent to a point where he's got a couple things, like a couple characters, maybe a tank or 2 bunched up, then bam, you can bring this guy right on in. One more thing to note is if you bring 2 of these guys, or even 3, you cannot set them up closer than 6 inches to each other. That way to kind and protect you from all spamming on 1 character.
Right. But I will say that even with just 1 Mawloc, you have killed some of my characters before.
Yes, it is good for finishing off characters or putting some significant chip damage on them. Also, if somehow your Mawloc survives a turn, then he can burrow back under. So always bring him in turn 2. Well,
Almost always.
you could bring him in turn 3, but I would do turn 2 almost always.
Because you could get the chance to put him, well, we'll get there.
Yeah, so if he's unengaged at the end of beginning of your movement phase, then you can plop him down turn 1.
Yep.
Or not turn 1, just plop him down, and then the next turn he can come up and do the whole ability again.
Right.
There is a trick. This is just coming to my head, and it's something you used to do. The rule of 50% on the table for reserves. You can put this guy on turn 1 on the table, and immediately at the start of your turn, plop him down.
That's
So
interesting.
if you're going for a full-on Deep Strike army,
Yeah.
this is one of the only ways around the 50% rule.
Right. Because, I mean, well, you're not even... Well, yeah, you are. You're getting around it,
You're
but
getting around
he is starting on the table.
Yeah, and he still does his
Interesting.
damage turn 2 like he would normally.
Yeah. Okay. That's very
something.
interesting. Yeah.
So, little preview on some tactics.
Yeah.
But we'll get into some adaptive physiologies and stratagems, how you want to buff these guys if you do.
Right.
So we rank... Oh, okay, I'll go. We'll rank the stratagems from... Or the adaptive physiologies from, okay to probably the one you're going to want to take.
Right.
The first one, I would use it only on your standard Trygon. If you don't want to pay the points, which even now with the point decrease, it's less and less like you need this.
Right.
Synaptic enhancement will just give synapse to your Trygon.
In general, I would say just take the Trygon Prime.
Especially with the point
take
decrease now, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's better.
Then if you want to go for another one, you want to play the regen route, you can have accelerated digestion, which is for every model you kill in the fight phase up to a max of 3, you get a wound back.
So, could be useful.
Could be good. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can get a few more wounds, just another way to regen, essentially. The next one is Murderous Size. This is the one where you get +1 strength, damage, and an extra AP on one of your close combat weapons. Obviously, if you do it on your Scything Talons, your massive Scything Talons, then you are now AP -4. You're an extra strength, so you're strength 8, and you're doing a D6 plus 1 damage.
In my opinion, maybe in yours too, it's almost an auto take. Almost for a Trygon Prime.
It's tough. It depends on your play style. I like to go aggressive and kind of put all my chips on the table in terms of aggressive, but I know a lot of people would prefer Dermic Symbiosis to have some extra durability, give you that 5-up feel no pain, and give it so you double your wound bracket in terms of referencing your damage table.
Right.
It's a preference play style. Do you want to go all on damage?
Offensive, defensive.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's it.
So basically, Murder's Size is really good, and Dermic Symbiosis is really good. Other two are kind of fun.
Yeah.
Next, we'll go over the useful stratagems for these guys. We've got Voracious Appetite. It is 1 command point, and it allows you to reroll failed wound rolls in the fight phase. So you're already rerolling 1s in your to hits. This kind of complements the other half of the fight phase, letting you reroll all of your wound rolls.
Yeah, pretty good for getting some guaranteed damage through.
Pretty good. Next one's going to be Adrenaline Surge for 3 command points. You can fight again. You've used this against me multiple times.
It's a good one.
With the Swarm Lord or something like a Trygon or Trygon Prime, it is extremely useful in the right situation.
Something to think about if you are planning on using this, try to charge multiple units if it's easy to do so.
Yeah.
That way you can spend one, like if there's 2 tanks next to each other, charge them both. Use 1 turn to smash one, fight again and smash the other one.
It's a great idea. Unexpected Incursion is going to be 1 command point, and it gives +2 to your Mawloc roll. So we're referencing the little chart that gives the mortal wounds when the Mawloc pops up. +2 essentially means you'll always do damage.
You'll always do D3 mortal wounds.
And you're likely to get even more.
Yep, so a 4, well, I shouldn't say it. On a 3, you will do 1 mortal wound.
Right.
No, you won't.
+2.
On a 1, you will do 1 mortal wound.
Right.
On a 2 through 3, you'll do D3 mortal wounds, and on a 4+, it's a flat 3.
So for 1 command point, if you need the extra damage from the Mawloc, it's great. It's a great strategy.
I think that's pretty auto use.
Yeah, if you need it, use it. And the last one is going to be Enemy Below. It is 1 command point. It is just for Jormungandr.
Yep.
And it allows you to... Oh, right. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole... Yeah, I can explain it.
Yeah.
So this is the special Jormungandr stratagem. It is basically another tunnel system. So it works for Ravners, Mawlocs, Trygons, and Trygon Primes. I would not use this with your Mawloc. It defeats the purpose.
Right.
But to continue on, you can set up, pay 1 command point per unit you're using up to, I believe it is 3. It might only be 2. I'd have to double check. So you set up another infantry unit in the tunnel system. So now your Trygon can bring in 1 troop choice and an infantry unit for 1 command point through their tunnels. And it's key that it's just infantry, because now you can talk about bringing Pyrovores and Venomthropes and Zonethropes, all sorts of things that you normally wouldn't think about deploying up in the front line.
Well, you wouldn't really have a way to do so.
A way to get them up, yeah. So
for 1 command point, if you're running Jormungandr,
it could be good.
Great strat.
They still have, so you have to set the unit wholly within 3 inches of the burrowing unit, and more than 9 inches away from enemy units. So it could get a little tricky with having too many units around 1 model. Or but you'll have to see, maybe play around, grab your Trygon if you have one, at least the base, and grab some units and just see how easy it is to manipulate some models. Just to give you an idea.
But I think we should also mention that last part of the rule is why you should never ever use this on a Mawloc.
Yes.
Because the Mawloc can be closer than any other units once it deep strikes.
Yeah.
So even if you bring a Mawloc, your other stuff isn't going to be able to deploy if you drop him next to your enemy, which is what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think technically rules is written if you don't bring them in
with him,
that just counts as being destroyed.
So use that on
Trygons,
not Mawloc. Yeah.
All right. So now some tactics here. We'll get into it. The Trygon and Trygon Prime are great Alpha Strike shock troop things. They're probably one of the best we have. They're fast. They do a lot of damage. They're scary, but they're a little glass cannon-y, a little bit.
The toughness 6 makes them a little squishier.
And if you don't use Dermic Symbiosis, no invuln save, las cannons, meltas are gonna, I mean, it only take 2 multi-meltas potentially to drop one.
Yep.
So
totally.
That's an unfortunate part there. They are, like we were mentioning with the stratagem, they are one of our only transport options.
Yeah.
We technically have 3. This is one of them.
Yeah.
4 actually for transport. Subterranean Assault, which is their built-in rule, and enemy below. Again, bringing in Devil Gaunts, Warriors, Pyrovores, and infantry, other infantry. Thematically, you could build a whole army around bringing up units. It's probably not the most competitive tactic, but I think it would be cool for a lot of more fun, narrative, casual games, playing an army where it just pops up at you right away turn 1.
And I'd say if you're playing Jormungandr, you probably should do this.
Might as well take advantage of what they're giving you.
Yeah, that's your
that is a good
additional thing.
A good point. Jormungandr, also their psychic power, built-in psychic power, is a unit that arrives that turn. I believe it is they get reroll all failed hit rolls against a unit, a chosen unit.
Wow.
So you can use that with you know, your Gaunts, not your Pyrovores, but your Gaunts, your Warriors, anything that pops up, pick a unit.
Do some shooting.
And then shoot.
Yeah. There you go.
That is a good point to bring out.
Additional little helper there, yeah. Okay. Next, we'll do the combat potential for the Trygon. And I think I might have mentioned this before, but we have talked about this off camera, and this is some of the most fun stuff in the Tyranid Codex.
There's some big damage here.
Maybe you should do this part, actually.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, so Trygons, we know they're fast.
Yeah.
They have 7 attacks, and with that, we're going to look at a toughness 7, 3-up save vehicle, so your standard Rhino chassis, which is pretty common.
Very common.
No upgrades on the Trygon. You'll be doing an average of 10 damage, so one-shotting a Rhino. Now, if you want to step it up, you take Murderous Size. Now you're doing an average of 16 damage to that said Rhino. Then, you want to step it up even more, use Voracious Appetite on top of your Murderous Size, and you're doing 20 damage on average with the Trygon.
On average.
On average. I mean, you could do lower.
You could also do much higher.
You could do a lot higher.
Right.
I think, let's see, maximum with Murderous Size, so you got 6 times 7 is 42, plus a built-in 7 more, so it's 49 wounds. Yeah, duh, 7, 7, 49.
It's kind of a potential Titan killer. Obviously, bigger things are not toughness 7, they're usually toughness 8.
Toughness 8.
So you'd have to change the math a little bit, but I mean, it's totally possible.
They're not quite at the point of just dropping knights.
Right.
You have to get a little lucky, or use like Fight Again and things like that.
Invest
even more to kill a knight.
Yep.
Though, I think about it, it's like, I don't think your Trygon is going to be hanging around in combat with the knight to fight again.
No.
Because the chain swords on a standard knight, I think it's just flat 6 damage. And it's AP minus 4.
Yeah.
And it's strength 12.
Yeah.
So it 2 shots. A Trygon.
So it's damage potential. You could risk it. He can kill toughness 7 things. What we're trying to get at, they can.
Yeah. Now it can still do damage to toughness 8 things. It's just the knights have 24 wounds at a minimum.
Right.
It can't quite do that on average.
Right.
But he still could.
He's almost there.
Trading, if you do a prime, trading a 175 point model for a 400 point model, I would take that trade every day.
If you can get in there, if you have Murderous Scythes, it might be worth going for. You know?
So, speaking of prime specific stuff, let's get on to a little bit of goodies on a way to upgrade them even more.
Right.
Because you now have the character keyword, you have access to a couple extra relics and stratagems. You might want to consider these.
Yeah. Relics that you should keep in mind. First one's going to be Chameleonic Mutation. You must be Kraken if you're going to take this. It gives you -1 to hit in shooting. Great.
Yeah, very solid there.
Really great. I mean, there's not much else to it, but it's a very
Nice
helpful thing.
Very good durability buff. The arachnocyte gland is the next one. I'm not sold on this, but it's still putting it out here.
Upgraded adrenal gland, basically.
Yeah, it's an upgraded adrenal gland, so you roll 3d6 and pick the 2 best for your charges. Now, I've done the math. Adrenal glands is an average of an 8-inch charge.
Right.
The arachnocyte gland is like an 8.5 to like an 8.7 on an average charge. So it's like an 8 to a 9-inch charge on average.
Right.
It's
1 to 2 inches.
It's not a consistent charge out of deep strike, or an average charge out of deep strike. Still.
Right.
It's slightly below average, so I don't know if it's worth taking the relic slot.
Right. There's better stuff, but maybe.
I wish it was just like a 3d6 charge. I know those are rare, but man, it's a relic. It should have been something like that.
Yeah. Probably just take adrenal glands instead and put your relic somewhere else on him.
Probably.
Next one is going to be xenogenic acid. Wound rolls of 5+ deal a mortal wound in addition to the other wounds you're dealing.
Yes. So wound rolls of 5 up, you're going to probably get 1 or 2 of these when you're rolling, just because of how many attacks you have.
Right.
And if you're using Voracious Appetite, you're re-rolling, you got more chances. On average, you'll probably do 1 or 2 of these to go through.
Okay.
It's just a little bit of extra damage.
Extra oomph.
I mean, it could be the difference between killing a knight and not killing it if you're going big.
Hard to say like pre-game though, if you know what I mean?
I'd throw it out here just as, I want to give you all your options as possible. The last one is fun. It's swingy, but it's fun. It's a classic. I like to use it when, we're just having a fun game. Yumgarl Factor. It's a D3 to either buff your toughness, your attack, your strength. And again, you roll this at the beginning of the fight phase. So I like this on the Trygon more than most models because each one is a big increase for the Trygon.
Yeah.
The toughness brings it to toughness 7, which will help you on a lot of close combat weapons. The attacks, okay, now you're rocking around with 8 attacks. That will help you kill a knight.
Quite a bit.
Or the strength.
Also help you kill a knight.
Now you're rocking around with strength 9, so you're wounding on 3s with the knight.
Crazy.
Again, if you're going against knights, sure, the toughness, but you got a 66% chance you're gonna do something to
some kind of additional
boost up the knight.
Damage, yeah.
Again, competitively, probably want to stick with Chameleonic Mutation if you do any of them.
Right.
But fun game, try it out. Let's see how it goes.
And you roll the buff every fight phase.
Every fight phase, so it's changing all the time.
So it changes constantly, and you really can't control which one you get.
You used to be able to, but now you can't re-roll a name.
Right. If you want to read some cool lore, look up Yumgarl Factor on Gene Stealers on YouTube.
Yeah, they talk
cool
about
stuff.
it a lot. It's pretty cool.
It is.
So also, because you are a character and you have synapse, you are given access to 3 more stratagems that you can use.
I'd say all 3, very useful.
Yep.
First one, Death Frenzy. He uses it all the time. It is 2 command points, and after the is it just monsters?
It's just monsters, or characters.
After the character is slain, it allows you to fight again as if it were the fight phase. Very useful for a large monster, but the downside
is you can only use it, or when you use it, you are fighting on your lowest damage bracket.
Which makes sense. It's extremely wounded. It's basically lashing out as its last shot.
Yeah, last attempt. Now, one thing to note is if you do use like Voracious Appetite, that still carries over to this fight part of the fight phase. So you're hitting not so great, but your wounding will be still consistent.
Yeah. So basically, if you need 1 or 2 more hits to finish something as this thing dies, use it.
Yeah. The last 2, I will say right now, we have a video. I will pin it up here above Connor's head. We have a video how to use mobility to win as the Tyranids. In that, I go in depth using a lot of different stratagems, tactics involving movement. I cover these 2 in depth on that video. We'll cover them here. They're kind of wordy and confusing, but I'll put them in simple terms here. And if you need, check out the video.
They're basically the same thing also.
Yeah. So Hive Instinct is assisted charges from Synapse creatures. So look at it as if I've got a Trygon or any Synapse creature. He charges into an enemy unit. Now, anyone else who charges that unit gets 3d6, pick the two highest on their charge.
It's a huge deal.
It can be, again,
It can be huge.
3d6 is not the biggest compared to adrenal glands, but unlike the arachnocyte gland, it is 3d6 plus adrenal glands.
Right.
So it does add up there.
Right.
Hunter's drive is similar. It's a lot like marker lights, that you pointed out, is if a synapse creature shoots and does damage to an enemy unit, then anything within, I believe it is 6 inches of that synapse creature charges that unit that was shot. They also get the 3d6 and pick the two highest for their charge.
It's like a Tyranid marker light for charging.
Yeah, it's like technically all of the ammunition, I believe, is living in the
Or acid or something.
Most of the ammunition is living, so it's like the hive mind going from the hive mind to the synapse creature to the bullet
to the ammo.
And then communicating back.
It's cool. You think about it like that, actually.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, now on to the tactics for the Mawloc. Basically, its main, not only function, but main function is a disruptor unit. It is cheap. It's kind of like a transport.
It can be. Like we said,
for Jormungandr.
it is a rule you can use if you want.
Right.
You could look at it as maybe one turn you transport, and then you burrow down, and then the next time you pop up.
It can be a transport, but really it's a disruption unit.
Absolutely.
And the main, I guess we haven't talked about this yet, the main situation you're going to be in is on turn 2, the Mawloc will pop up in your opponent's back lines, usually, and it will force them to make some choices.
Yeah.
The biggest armies that it will affect are going to be elite armies, Grey Knights, Custodes, anything else that's pretty elite.
Space Marines can be elite. Yeah.
It forces you to make a choice. Do you kill this giant worm snake in your backfield, or do you focus your fire on things further out?
Yeah, so it is, like you said, it is a good disruptor. It'll make your opponent not only think, when it pops up, how do they kill it? Because typically it's not too hard to kill it.
No.
But also they will think about it in the deployment and movement phases. If they're a new player, they could easily just forget about it.
Yeah.
And then you might have some prime targets. Or if they are a seasoned veteran, they might take a little bit of extra time to think, and it might hinder their movement because they take so much time to think about how to block this.
Right.
Really just a little bit of a mind game with them.
Right.
On top of that, they are great for engaging all fronts because you can deploy within 2 inches of your enemy. It makes it really hard to screen one of these out.
One of the few things in the game that can deploy that close.
Yeah, so absolutely, if you're using a Mawloc, you should probably build the rest of your army around making sure you can get engaged in all fronts.
Totally.
Maybe some lictors or just some fast units. The Terror, the Deep rule, like we said with the Stratagem, they're really good at finishing off some vehicles that maybe your Hive Guard have shot the turn before. Characters, most characters have, I think all characters have 4 wounds or more. 4 to 6 is pretty common.
Yeah.
So you can't kill a character, but you can do some good chip damage, and if they have no way to heal, now they've got to be very careful with that character.
And I mean, you have finished some of my characters off before with it.
Absolutely.
You get even 1 or 2 shots on a character somehow with some snipers maybe, and then the giant snake comes up.
Yeah.
Finishes them off.
So, yeah, that's a great point. And when you're running around with a character on 1 or 2 wounds, all it takes is a Hormagaunt and a bad roll to kill it. So,
true.
Again, mind games, people are going to have to think a little bit more about it.
Basically, where do you want to send your 125-point missile?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what it is.
So, again, the opponent has to deal with this, otherwise it will burrow back and do it again.
Reburrow.
It is not very durable. It will die quickly, so expect that. Expect this thing to pop up, do some mortal wounds, and get nuked right off the table.
Enjoy the mind games before he's
Enjoy
dead.
it while it lasts, because it probably won't be long.
Nope.
Well, I think that's pretty much it. They're straightforward. Mind games and a missile. That's what the Mawloc is.
I think so.
So we can come to a conclusion here. We will talk about the Trygon Prime. I think they have great damage potential.
Yeah.
Deep striking them is a little bit iffy.
But if you're going to bring in other stuff.
So this is where, yes, but I'll put in this counter
Sure.
because the Lictor also has Pheromone Trail.
Right.
And he can do what the Trygon does better because the Lictor is smaller. It's easier to put in places.
Much smaller.
Yeah. Much smaller. You can get, I mean, theoretically, you get the same amount of models because it's 3 inches, but your footprint overall is smaller, so it's easier to place it.
Right.
Actually, I think the Lictor one might be a 6-inch away. Anyway, point being, Lictors are better at the deep striking transport for most units than the Trygon. And if you want, I actually think putting them on the board and slingshotting the Swarm Lord is the way to go.
It is faster.
It's faster,
Just
so
objectively.
you got 9 inches. You could go for a Kraken version, so now you're -1 to hit if you take Chameleonic Mutation.
Yeah.
You can put Onslaught on the Swarm Lord, so then you cast it on him, so you get 9 inches, and then you advance, or move again, 9 inches, plus an advance if you get Onslaught off, and then you got your charge. With Adrenal Glands, probably.
Probably a pretty easy charge.
It's a pretty easy turn 1 charge.
Yeah.
With the Trygon, if you can get the Psychic Power off. That is the key.
Okay.
So I really think, while deep striking is narratively the way Trygons are, because you still have to be 9 inches away, I think a slingshotted Trygon is the best way to do it.
And like maybe we haven't said it in this way yet, but they are glass cannons. Even the Trygons, their defenses are essentially the same as the Mawloc.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, their defenses are the same as Mawloc.
They're toughness 6 with a 3-up save, which is not bad, but it is pretty killable.
Auto cannons. Now you've got the AdMech, as we've been covering.
Yeah.
1 Dragoon theoretically could take one out.
That's true.
Or I should say Iron Strider.
Yeah.
Can take one out with 6 shots, hitting on 2s.
2 damage each.
2 damage each, hitting on 3s.
Yeah.
Not likely, but...
Just be aware that even though they look massive and intimidating, they will die.
They'll die very quick.
They'll die.
They'll die very quick.
Yeah. And as far as the Mawloc goes, our conclusion on that is, again, it's a great distraction unit. It's 125 points, so for something of that scale, it's kind of cheap. And it forces your opponent to make choices, which is a huge part of the game.
Yeah, the 125 points, I believe that is our cheapest monster.
Oh, wow.
So
there you go.
Taking 2 of them, which might be fun to take them in pairs, they are not throwaway units, but together they can do some good damage.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before, but you kind of got to build your list around these guys a little bit.
Yeah.
A Mawloc especially.
Either you just take one because you have no other points and nothing else to do, or you build your list around knowing you're going to take 2 Mawlocs or even 3, gosh, if you want to.
It could be good.
It could be fun.
It'd be all right.
So, yeah, that's the way we think. I still think they're good, but they're more fun than competitive tournament.
All 3 of these units.
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
So if we got tournament tier here, these are our hero duels and our Demacrons, our Swarm Lords, our Hive Tyrants are up here. I think they are in the
2 steps lower maybe.
Yeah, if you want, I think we put them in our tier rank and we put them in C tier.
That sounds right.
They're 2 steps lower, but if we do more general, they are the
next chunk down.
Powerful, but only in a casual game.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And do we want to mention hopes for the future?
Yeah. So before we get into a little bit of a rant, we'll sign off here.
Yeah.
Before we do a rant, but if you want to do the rant, stick around. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. We love making these videos, and let us know in the comments which one you want to do. We should do next. Sporocyst is coming. Don't comment that one. We know he's coming. Don't worry. We've already recorded it. But with that being said, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Where would you like to see these guys improve?
So, we talked about it a little bit before filming, but as far as the Mawloc goes, I think I would want it to stay almost exactly the same. I think it's in a great place. Again, it's not competitive, but it's also not expensive. It's not hard to use. It's what did we say? A missile from underground?
Yeah.
It's an underground missile. Think about that. And then as far as the Trygons and Trygon Prime go, it is a little complicated how you could change them, but what I'm sort of hoping for and thinking is get them up to toughness 7, just because it would make them a lot more usable. Now, if you make them toughness 7, you have to make them more points. It's kind of
Just a little bit.
not too much, because things are getting power creep in this game is just continuing.
Yep.
So it wouldn't really need to be that expensive or much more expensive to make them toughness 7, but just giving them toughness 7, making them 10, maybe 15, but probably in my opinion 10
At most
points,
10.
at most 10, it would make them a lot more viable, and you could probably use them in certain tournaments.
Yeah.
With toughness 7.
So they need something else.
Yeah.
In terms of I think one thing that they will get, if they don't, I would give away my Trygon. If they don't get this.
Stay tuned for the giveaway.
If they don't get D3 plus 3 damage on their massive siding talons or monster siding talons, it would be extremely disappointing. I think that is the key thing that's holding them back.
Yes.
If they were D3 plus 3.
I don't think we mentioned the D6.
We mentioned it.
We did.
Yeah,
okay.
they did D6 damage.
Okay, cool.
So,
but like, it's not a great damage.
No, because it's 1 or 6. D3 plus 3 means now you're doing a minimum 4.
Right.
I don't know if murder size will stay around, so we'll keep that out of the conversation.
Forget about that for now, yeah.
So you're now doing minimum 4 damage. Let's say you get 5 wounds through. That's 20 damage. If we keep some of the same stratagems, I mean, that's 20 on a minimum.
Yeah.
It's D3 plus 3.
Minimum.
So average with 4 attacks, with 5 attacks is 24, 25.
Well, let's be honest, that's what they're supposed to do.
These things were
They're
Titans.
supposed to be, yeah, right.
They were the Titans before Titans were like
Titans.
in 40k normally now.
Right.
And they're kind of small for Titans, but...
They were. It's important, though.
Yeah, they were Titans. I think if they're D3 plus 3, now you're going to see them used a lot. I hope that doesn't cause their points to go up.
I agree with you. It shouldn't be that many points, but it needs a little hike up, you know?
I'm going to go back to the AdMech just because they're fresh in our minds. The Iron Strider Ballistaries, their last cannons went to D3 plus 3 damage, and they went up 5
from
points.
D6.
From D6. And they went up 5 points.
It's almost nothing.
And they even gained a whole world of buffs on top of that for being core, which...
And their points cost overall is a 5-point increase, or was that the gun?
Well, overall, total with the gun, they went up 5, I believe it was 5 points.
So basically what you're getting at is for almost barely a points increase, they just made them better.
They got D3 plus 3.
So maybe the Trygons can get some.
Yeah, if the Trygons can get D3 plus 3 damage,
huge game changer.
That's game changer right now. I would take 3 of them.
Buy some more. Buy another one.
I'd have to buy another one.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't say absolute auto take because they're still going to be fragile.
Certain lists.
But now their damage is going to be so scary.
So you would rather have increased damage, like if you had to pick one thing.
Damage or durability? Yeah, I would go all in on the damage because
you'd get more out of them.
It sucks to go in all in on damage and then have a bad dice roll on the wound roll.
True.
I mean, you could do
the damage roll.
Or the damage roll. Yeah, you could go all in. Everything goes perfectly, or even just average.
Yeah.
And then it comes to your damage roll, and you could roll
1s.
4 1s.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It's like wow.
Or even like if you get a 1, 2, 3, 4. What is that?
1, 2, 3,
10,
4 is
10 damage.
10 damage.
So 10 less than what you would get in our possible future scenario.
3, yeah.
10 less, half. That's quite a big difference. So how about the Mawloc? How do you?
I kind of agree with you. I think the Mawloc is in a good place.
You don't want to make it too strong.
You don't want to make it too strong. I mean, if I had to pick anything, it's give it Scything Talons some punch. Make them like damage D3 or damage 3. Make them the same Scything Talons the Hive Tyrants have. Their strength user AP-3, 3 damage.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, in between normal Scything and massive Scything Talons.
Yeah, give them what the...
I didn't realize that it already existed.
Yeah, there are three types of Scything Talons.
Okay.
Don't give them 2 sets of them. Just give them 1 set of it.
Yeah, on the top. Big
on
arms.
the top.
Yeah.
And then maybe cut their attacks down to 5 attacks. Or 6 attacks.
Because they're bigger, harder to swing or something.
Yeah. Because right now it's 6 attacks, 1 for each limb, which makes sense, but I could see them, if you make them...
Well, Mawloc is 7 attacks, though.
His head.
Oh,
His head is the monster.
that makes sense. I got it.
Why does the Trygon not have a head bite?
Because the Mawloc's mouth is like...
The mom's mouth
like a
is pretty
big-
cool.
It's
Still,
like
I don't get
elite
bit by
from
a
Halo.
Trygon.
No.
That's how I died in a Deathwatch game.
A Trygon ate you?
A Trygon bit my head off.
Horrifying.
It was my brand new character, tangent on a tangent.
Mm-hmm.
Brand new character after my guy heroically sacrificed himself.
Beautiful moment.
This is where I
Just
came
a beautiful
into.
moment.
This is where I came into my Black Dragons. Black Dragon, Blood Angel, or Black Dragon, Vanguard, or Assault Marine. He had his bone spikes that were basically lightning claws.
Cool.
First mission, Trygon comes up from the ground, bites my head off. I had to make a new character in the next session.
Did they kill it at least? Everyone else?
Oh yeah, everyone else got him. No, I think he went away.
He just popped up, ate you, and ran away?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Calvin, our GM, had told me that his dice rolls were like
Super hot?
point in order to do that.
Woo!
And I missed my dodges and everything, but
I'm sure nobody was laughing about that situation.
I was quite sad. I loved him.
He was a good guy, rest in peace.
Anyway,
Yeah.
diverting back onto this, I think Mawlocs are pretty good. I would just like to see their scything talons. I
Slightly
think they're
improved.
only strength 6, so it wouldn't be that scary. A strength 6, AP minus 3.
3 damage, though?
3 damage.
Don't you think that might be a little much? For a...
But if they're
At a
only
25
only strength 6 and they're only hitting on 4s at best,
That's a good
it
point.
might be okay.
That's a good point.
You
Hitting
only
on
get
4s is different.
7 attacks, sure, 1 with the head, keep the head the way it is at D6 damage just because, why not? Keep it swingy.
That's a head.
4, so you'd get 6 attacks with the Trygon, and then you'd only wound with, if you're going against a vehicle, you would wound with 1 of them.
For the Mawloc.
For the Mawloc.
Yeah.
If you go against infantry, you'd probably wound with 2 of them. That's not that much. But it's
Yeah, I guess I agree with you.
something, unlike now, if you do a wound with your Mawloc against anything but a guardsman, you're...
Start laughing like a crazy
I
person.
know. So that's what I would say. Give them the Hive Tyrant Scything Talons, but keep them at hitting on 4s and keep them at strength 6.
Keep them at the same points. I mean,
I think same points.
throw 5 points on it, guess, but you really don't.
Yeah. Because
Fine.
he's rare he actually fights in combat unless your opponent charges him.
And then usually they're dying.
They're dead,
Because they're toughness 6 with a 3-up save.
So that's the only change I would do to them. Otherwise, I'm liking it.
They're fun.
I'm waiting for the next codex to see what changes, and I really, really hope the Trygons get back to the way they were.
Mawlocs are fine the way they are. Just a little buff for the Trygons, maybe.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you like that rant. I think that's good enough for us there.
If you did, maybe we'll end more of our videos with rants.
Yeah, let us know if you liked the little rant at the end. Give us another like if you haven't. If you have, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't unlike it.
Please.
We need it. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're still watching this, obviously you like the commentary. Subscribe. Click the little button.
Thank you.
Little boop. Thank you. Please. Loved. Happy. Yes. Otherwise, we'll end the video here. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you want us to cover next.